This going? Hello, and welcome back to another Astro Chat and Chill. This is Monday, January 30th, and we are here to talk about the astrology of the moment and whatever else comes up in the next hour. So, hi. Oh, hello. And look, yeah, we figured it out. We figured it out today. I can see your little chat box. Not going to miss it. But the first time that I used like the Twitch studio, there was a little bit of lagginess with the audio and the video. So I changed a few settings. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But if it does, I value quality over aesthetic. And so if this recording or if this experience ends up not being like the way that we like it, or it ends up not being up to the same standard that we had on Friday when I was streaming through Zoom, then we'll just do it like that, because again, I'm much more interested in the quality of the video being good and the experience being good than just it being cool looking, which, I mean, let's be real, this is pretty cool looking. Okay. But let's go look at the astrology of the moment. So this is astro.com. I showed this to you on Friday. This is, other than my own planner, right? This is where I go to look at maybe the more like the minutia, right? So more of like the moon transits and how they, or the lunar transits and how it is like, what else it's impacting, you know? So for example, we have the moon in Gemini today. The moon moved into Gemini like while we were asleep, and it's so funny actually now that I'm thinking about that more critically, because I slept like absolute trash last night. Just like so bad. It was really bad sleep. Like if I go and I look at my like sleep data from my watch last night, from about 3:30 onward, I was up like every 15 minutes. It was an absolute nightmare, because I get up on Mondays at 6 a.m. to go to the 6:30 yoga class. So it's like I had 3 more hours, 2.5, 3 more hours to sleep, and it just was not happening for me. But if you look at that, that's exactly when the moon was going void of course, was like during that time frame from midnight to about 3:30 my time, and then from about 3:30 onward, that is when it moved into Gemini. And so Gemini is like it's my rising sign, so it literally could have been like, hey, get up, hey, pss, 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 it's time to get up, right? Your dreams have been really vivid lately. Well, and of course, when Venus is in Pisces, our dreams are like on fire. And what I'd be interested to look at, and we can do this, when I pull up your chart later, is where exactly like Pisces falls in your chart. We're going to be playing around. We're going to be experimenting with, sometimes we'll use Placidus housing, sometimes we'll use whole signs. But this is going to help tell you like where and how certain things impact you at different times of the month or different times of the year, or just, whatever. But yeah, last night when the moon moved into Gemini, and I didn't know this until literally right now, I didn't really think about it. But yeah, as the moon like crossed over my ascendant and into the first house, I'm like, okay, it's time to get up. It's time to get up. It's time to go. It's time to get up. And because the moon will also come into conjunction with Mars today, with it being in Gemini, you might be feeling especially restless today. And then we also, of course, have the sun trining Mars, with these being in air signs. So when I say there might be a feeling of restlessness, I don't necessarily encourage you to like be in a place where you're trying to make decisions or like set the plan right this second. And I don't know, if you have a plan that you're working on, wonderful, but I would encourage you to embrace that like restlessness, or to resolve that restlessness through connections, right? Through going out, doing something new, doing something different. I encourage my clients, when we're trying to like break a pattern, or when we're trying to just like shake up the energy, like create new opportunities for them. It's a really simple exercise, but it's literally just like, what like, what do you do on an everyday basis, and try and approach it like a little bit differently. Like, just try and do something a little bit different, and then notice what happens next. Like, be open to your surroundings. So what I mean by this is, maybe you know, have the same route that you go every morning to go get your morning coffee. Okay, instead of taking a left, take a right. Okay, or instead of going to the coffee place that's on that corner, go to the coffee place that is down the street. Whatever. Small decisions or small changes that don't really have a huge impact on anything. Like, they shouldn't mean a whole lot, but it's just that you're following your intuition, you're taking a different pathway, you're shaking up your nervous system, you're shaking up the pathways that you're used to, and then you're opening yourself up to possibility. You're opening yourself up to, like, okay, well, what could be different? Like, what do I see, what do I hear, what do I feel that is different than my normal experience? And you have no idea what's going to happen next. You could see something, you could hear something, you could make a connection with someone, your eyes could land on a book, you could hear a song lyric. Like, there is something that will be there that will speak to you from somewhere deeper, right? And that would be the way that I would encourage you to, like, address the restlessness today, is less through, like, the earthy trying to figure it out sort of energy, and more the airy, you know, because that's where we've got this trine. That's where the sun is right now, where the moon is right now. This is an air time, so this is airtime. So this is more of a moment for us to be, like, Mars in Gemini, and we've had this for, like, such a long time because it went retrograde in Gemini. You know, people talk about, like, I had this friend who had Mars in Gemini, and he would, like, blame everything that was wrong with his life, basically, on Mars in Gemini, just, like, his indecisiveness and his inability to, like, move forward in any significant way. Like, he would just, like, oh yeah, my Mars in Gemini, like, I can't make a decision. I'm just like, this is not, we don't use these placements as an excuse for, like, being the way that we are. We use these as points of awareness to help us grow into the best version of ourselves available, right? Like, having your Mars in Gemini is not, like, innately, like, bad, or, like, having Mars in Gemini is not innately, like, it's not, like, you know, gonna sabotage us. It doesn't mean, like, oh, well, we can't make decisions, or, like, make, you know, like, do anything, like, move forward in a meaningful way. It's just about embracing, like, the energy of, like, like, playfulness and curiosity. Like, Mars in Gemini is, like, I think about it like trivia night. I think about it like Jeopardy. I think about it like Trivial Pursuit. It's like, you know, a little bit about a lot of things. You're interested in a lot of things at maybe a surface level. And that's okay, because, like, I mean, I talk about this all the time, you know, and maybe it's just like the Capricorn analogy of it all, but it's like, when we commit to something, like, in a, you know, like, a powerful, meaningful way, whether it's 7th house, like, relationship kind of stuff, or whether it's 10th house, like, career stuff, doesn't matter. When we make these, like, big commitments, you know, it's like packing a backpack to go up the mountain. Like, we are going to be, like, traversing, you know, time and space, and there's going to be work and action involved. And this is just, like, the, you know, the society that we live in, like, the prime delivery, like, mentality. You know, we can have a breakthrough in a day. We can have a revelation in a day. You can even, like, set up a strategy in a day. But, like, just because you have the knowing, or have the, like, awareness, or have the plan, doesn't mean you're gonna, like, have the transformation. Just because I have awareness of, you know, whatever, my self-sabotaging patterns, or whatever, things like that, just because I have awareness of it doesn't mean, right? Like, my friend with Mars in Gemini, he had awareness that he was indecisive, but was he doing anything about it? Was he trying to address it? Was he trying to work on it and improve himself? Or, like, even, like, I don't know, I feel like so many of us just need to I'm constantly looking at my own definitions of words or of phrases, or like looking at the meanings of things and like asking myself where that came from or why I think that way. So what I mean by that is like success. Okay, so like what does success mean to you? Or like what does having a plan mean to you? Like what does that actually look like, sound like, feel like? Where did you get that idea of what that is? Abundance, like anything, right? These words that people throw around a lot, right? I'm successful. I want to be successful. Well, what does that actually mean? What does that actually look, sound, and feel like to you, right? You have to get your head around that in order for you to have the commitment to like go up the mountain, right? And in order for you to know what kind of mountain you want to climb, like, and that you're going to actually get behind that commitment, you have to do or at least this is my perspective, it's healthy and good for you to do the like Gemini like taste test, you know, to taste a little bit of everything, to get a little bit here and there, a little bit, right, before you like make that bigger commitment. I feel like that is, I mean, very seventh house, you know, of it all. Like, you generally don't marry the first person that you date. Sometimes you do. Sometimes that's and like, that's awesome. Hopefully when you did that, you know, when you like the kind of person who like that makes sense for, it's the kind of person who's very grounded in their core values, what they believe partnership should look like, and all of that, right? I personally, maybe this is like my, if I go over and I look at my chart, let's pull it down to look at some whole signs today. Oh no, that's not what I want. Okay, and we're going to pull open Juno too. And then I'm also going to reduce my orb tables because I like looking at just the tightest aspects. Like, not like this makes it look like all my shit is unaspected, and that is not the case. It's just that I've reduced my aspects to 50%. So what that means is that instead of it pulling, like it would pull the, right, probably a sextile on my Neptune as well here. Yeah, it totally would. Because this is at 10 degrees Capricorn and this is at 14. But it's not doing that because it's not a tight enough aspect. I don't know if I'm getting like way too astro nerdy on you, if this is just like, what the fuck are you even saying now, Fani? But like, don't worry about it. Okay. So the reason that why was I doing this? Seventh house. Oh man, I totally just lost my train of thought. I was going to go open my chart. Why was I doing that? I don't know. We're going to do it anyway. With transits. So, right, let's see how the energy of oh shit, are you serious? Juno is coming into conjunction with everything else. Right, so we've got Juno, Jupiter, and Chiron. We're going to have a mega conjunction in about a month. Right here, it's going to be like the beginning, like the first-ish week of March. I'm like, what month is that? Where are we? What is time? This is going to be a really like crazy time. I don't even know what to think about it yet. I think it's going to be, I don't know. I think it's going to be fun, but that's the way that I choose to see everything. Like, if I can just be honest with you, I choose to see like the most positive outcome. Like, I choose to see like the most like positive version of you when I look at your chart. Like, that's the goal, isn't it? Like, that's why we're doing this. Like, I go into Reddit all the time and that's why I wanted to do that, because I was going to show you, it doesn't make sense actually with whole sign, but if I pull it down with Placidus, right? So I have my Saturn here at 6 degrees Capricorn, and it's just inside of my 7th house. You can see, right, my 2nd house starts at 6 degrees Cancer, so that means that, but it's, I'm sorry, 6 degrees and 50, right? So that would mean that my 8th house starts at 6 degrees and 50 of Capricorn. And because Saturn is at 6 and 24. That means it's like, I mean, it's basically conjunct my 8th house. Right? My 8th house, ruler, like the cusp of my 8th house. But it is still, according to Placidus, it is still technically in my 7th house. And so the whole reason that I was getting there was because like that helps you to understand my perspective around something like dating or something around making a commitment, especially if there are other people involved. If you've got, or at least this is like astrologically speaking, right? Like if you go and you look at like astro, like generalized astro recommendations or like generalized astro like definitions or whatever, they'll talk about how women with a 7th house Saturn either don't get married or they get married like later in life or they marry older people. And so for me, and for really anyone who's got the 7th house Saturn, I really encourage folks who have that to like not make big commitments until post Saturn return, whether that is about like relationship stuff or whether that's about like business stuff, because the 7th house is the house of long-term partnerships. I use the phrase mutually beneficial relationships. Right? Because we can see different kinds of relationships in other houses of the chart, like the 5th house, the 4th house, even the 6th house or the 10th house, right? We see like different business or like bosses and, employees or like mothers and children or, siblings in the 3rd house, neighbors. But when we get into the 7th house, it's the house of Libra. So this is the house of long-term partnerships. So that it's the house of, we have to collaborate, right? But it's like we're partnership, right? So, marriages, but also like long-term business partnerships. So not to be confused with maybe like 11th house stuff where it's, the organization or the group. I think about the 11th house as like activism groups and things of that nature. Maybe the group is there, but the heads, that would be 7th house stuff, right? And so for me, I really have this energy or this mentality that like our like prior to your Saturn return era, which is 28 to 30, that's a time for experimentation and for tasting things and for like figuring out what it is that like sparks joy within you, what it is that like sparks curiosity within you. I use this phrase all the time when I'm working with people in their business, is like, what is it that gets you like fired up and makes you want to flip a table, right? Because that is a powerful emotion, and likely the feeling that you have is not something that is exclusive to you. And when you can rally, behind a cause that is bigger than just like what it is that you're doing, or like the thing, like this is so much bigger than astrology. Like everything that I do is so much bigger than astrology. It's so much bigger than any of the goals that I work on with people, whether it's about, relationships or your business or your professional life or like whatever. Because for me, it's all about people like being happy, like doing what they want, like not being a slave to a system or to like being like trapped within a framework of a lifestyle that they just don't feel is correct for them. That you're struggling through life every day, and it doesn't have to be that way. But that's where we get back to that concept of like unpacking, like, well, what is my definition of success? Like, what is my definition of what it means to live, a rich life? What is my perspective around what it means to be fulfilled? And, if you look at a lot of what I talk about, like a lot of the way that let's go back to the 8th or the whole sign perspective, because this just like makes me laugh. because it puts all my Capricorn placements right there in the 8th house, like just absolutely no fucks given, like roasted. I think about constantly, every single day, like I'm gonna die. Some days I have a lot of anxiety about that. Some days not so much. But I think about it constantly, and I just think about, like, am I going to be happy with what I've done? Like, am I going to be proud of myself? Am I going to be feeling or thinking about, like what, like, I don't know. It's something that's constantly just, like, in my head. And you know, my father passed away when I was 14 years old. So that definitely, he was 42, so that was definitely something that was, like, very shocking, was this, like, realization that, like, and it was not, like, it was very spontaneous, like, it was completely out of the blue, unexpected, and that was something that, like, totally, like, rocked my fucking world, right? It was like, wow, you could just die, like, at any time, and you could be really young, too. And there's more to it than that, you know, there's a lot of, like, there's, you know, we'll get there, I guess, when we get there. But that's a lot of what it is that motivates me, like, behind the scenes, right? It's like what makes me want to flip the table is, like, the indoctrination and the, like, systemization of your life. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, you're born on a planet that has, like, so much beauty, and, like, we're given such a finite amount of time to appreciate it. And, like, we're doing all this shit that we hate. We're doing all this shit that just, like, doesn't matter. Ew. Like, I don't want I'm getting very emotional. I just don't want anybody to feel at the end of their life like they wasted it, or like they gave it all for something that they didn't even care about. You know, that's really important to me. So I know it's something that's important to me. I know it's something that's important to you. I know it's something that when I speak to it, you know, it brings people, geez, my goodness. It brings people, you know, closer to me and to my work, because you're motivated by the same mission, right? And that's not my mission, right? It's not something that I own. But it's something that I do think adds, you know, a deeper, like, meaning, a deeper connection behind what it is that we're here doing. Oh my goodness. Ew, how did we get there? Okay, enough. So, let's look at all of this with the transits, see how things are going today. Oh, do we have Saturn right at 25? Okay, getting close. I had Venus go over my MC last week, and now it looks like it's just about right. We've got Venus a degree away from my North Node. We've got Saturn a degree away from my MC. Like, things are definitely happening in my career right now, and I'm very excited to see what it is that happens. I've also got Mercury 2 degrees away from my Sun-Moon conjunction. There is so much happening for Fani right now. Holy shit. And we've got Mars at what? 9 degrees. So this is 3 degrees away from my ascendant. So, like, we're talking by the end of the week. We're talking by this time next week. What's going to happen? Oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm full of suspense. But, like, definitely there's something happening. Professionally, like, I'm definitely keeping my eyes open for some kind of opportunity. I feel like maybe I'm gonna get a new client. Like, maybe it's time for me to launch this, like, new, like, tiered membership that I've got my mind, right? I'm, like, brewing on. I don't know, but I'm gonna definitely have to marinate in this today. This is, like, some pretty exciting transits that we've got going on for me. You know what was something that I was doing this weekend that was a lot of fun? My boyfriend's sister came over, and so we started just like messing around with all kinds of like synastry and all kinds of, and basically we've got two things, right? We've got, what am I doing? Okay, there we go. Right, we've got synastry is like two people's energy compared to one another, right? Where then we also have composite charts, and so composite charts will tell you like the story of the relationship, and so you can do this with any kind of relationship, right? Whether that's like romantic relationships, right? Like this chart here with me and my boyfriend, or like I did one this weekend that was me and my nephew, my little nephew. He's about to be 5 in a couple of days. And he is so fucking awesome. Like I adore him. He is so special. He is so smart. He is like a fucking genius. Like for Christmas, I knew it was going to be like kind of a challenge for him, but I was really adamant. I wanted to get him this, it's like old labyrinths, right? That like you like turn it, it's a table, and like you get the marble through the thing. It's for older kids. But I knew that he would really get something out of it. His mom was telling us that he actually takes his like bigger like glass marbles and puts them on there so that he can practice with that first before and then he'll put the metal one in there and use that one to get better at it. I'm just like, oh, he's so smart. But I did our synastry the other day because I feel this like connection to him, and I'm like, why do I I feel like I just get him. Our Mercury is exactly conjunct. Like we have so many things in common. But like that one really hits me because like I can see that he has ADHD. They're very well aware of it, and they're doing lots of like awesome things to support him. Like they're the greatest parents. Like they're the kind of parents I wish that I had when I was a kid, because it's not just like quiet, like knock it off, they're really like trying to help him be his best self, and like I love it. But he's got that 9th house Aquarius Mercury, but he also has like his sun and something else there. And yeah, so I'm like, this kid's a genius, like actual genius. That Mercury, not to like call myself a genius, he is a genius. I would say that I have alien thoughts, right? Like very big thoughts that are like very hard to translate into English sometimes and like communicate with words. But I'm also not like an artist or like a visual person in any way. So it's like sometimes I have these like very complicated thoughts that I have to just like take my time trying to process. I think that's one of the reasons I really love LSD, is because it gives my brain just like more, like it upgrades my internal RAM space so that I can process more and actually like think my thoughts to completion. It's just, that's what I love about it the most, I think. But yeah, I think that's also probably why I'm gravitating and really enjoying this live stream concept too, because I really could just riff for like 45 minutes to an hour every single day about astrology and more. And the more that I do this, like the clearer I get and the better I feel like I'm able to teach this and to communicate it. But yeah, so this is a fun thing that we were doing over the weekend, and just kind of like seeing, how we, like why we're cosmically or karmically in each other's lives, and, how we can support each other and what things might trigger, one another. And so that's always a fun thing to share with people, especially, right, people who've got a 7th house North Node. Right, my boyfriend, he's got actually a 1st house North Node. I've got a 10th house North Node. So we're like two people who need to learn how to like be seen, very much so. I think it's super interesting that for both of us, our ascendants are pretty close to each other's Chirons. I do think that's actually pretty interesting, that there's something about each other that we find like very healing. This was one of the first things that stood out to me, though, was that he's got Juno. Okay, so we talk about Venus a lot when we're talking about attraction, or when we're talking about what it is that we value, what we want to see more of. And so, yes, a lot of like the feminine attraction kind of traits, right? Like Venus and Mars, right? So Venus would be the more feminine, Mars would be the more masculine, the more like sex drive, the more like push energy, the initiator. But Juno is a little known asteroid placement that I like to pull out, because if Venus is what we're attracted to, Juno is where we want to actually commit, right? So Juno is the Greek goddess Hera, right? So this is the one wife that Zeus actually took, right? So the one woman, or the one, right, marriage that he actually like made a commitment to. Now we know that Zeus was like a prolific, I don't know, sexual being, I guess you could say, because there's lots of children, that are like this is the child of Zeus, whatever, with like a, that I'm getting way off track, but you can see, you get where I'm going. Excuse me. And so I thought that this was really interesting, because if this is his sun and this is my Juno, then like who he is very much the kind of person that I want to commit to. And then we also have his Juno, and this is actually, so we're looking at it in whole sign, but let's go back and look at it in Placidus. And this is why I like going back and forth, because they're they're not like right or wrong. They're just different perspectives, right? It's just like different takes. Oh my God, I have to get a drink of water. Excuse me. Okay. Yeah, so they're not right or wrong necessarily, just different cosmic takes. But you can see that when we have it in Placidus, that my Venus is like right there conjunct his descendant line. And the descendant line, of course, is the line that leads into the seventh house of long-term partnerships. We also see that his Moon-Jupiter conjunction, because like, could somebody be more lovable? No. People talk about like Capricorn moons being super cold and withholding, and I don't know anything about that because I'm very emotional. I mean, I cried already on this live stream. But he's got his, well, okay, so I've got a sun-moon conjunction, so obviously that like changes things, but there is not a single person who knows Charlie who doesn't just like love him. Like when I first started like dating him, and actually for the first probably like 2 or 3 years that I was dating him, anytime I would see his friends, they would be like, do you know how lucky you are? like do you know how blessed you are to be with Charlie? Because he's an amazing, like I feel like all of his friends like want to marry him, and like indiscriminately, like males, female, like no, like it doesn't matter, like he's just like a grade A fucking human being. But when you have a Moon-Jupiter conjunction, you like make everybody who like connects with you emotionally, you just like make them feel like $1,000,000. Like you make them feel like just they are everything. And it's not like he's a super expressive person either. It is just a quality of the energy. Like he is just like such a kind and like genuine person. And so that conjunction is right there on my Saturn as well. And so when it comes to like commitments and emotional commitments, he sees me as someone who is like solid and reliable and someone who's going to be there for him. Yeah, so I have been looking a lot at like these kinds of things lately, not just for me, but for other people. I'll do that, with you and your kids, with you and your partner, with you and, my client who's here right now has like a podcasting partner. And that would be the other, let's do midpoint. That would be the other, kind of chart to bring in. Like if your podcasting partner, if your biz partners, your biz besties will agree to hand over their birth details and or just even their circle chart so that I can draw up one of these. That's super helpful. That helps me help you, and helps us all to perform at our best. Like she has her North Node in Pisces at the same degree as you, and the same. Oh my gosh, that was a sentence that I completely tripped over. She has her North Node in Pisces at the same degree as your North Node in Pisces. That's also, yes, don't know if it's in the same house, right? Exactly. And that's where I find there to, I don't know. I feel like every astrologer, has their own like philosophies or their own like how they gravitate toward things. But I feel like the houses are where like a lot of your answers are. Like it's where it helps to show you, hey, this is going to be highlight, you'll see this in a highlighted, fashion in this area of your life. Hers is in the 4th house. Wait, her North Node is in the 4th house in Pisces. So that's like, so that would make her a Sagittarius rising. Yeah. Yeah, because that's like mine, but flipped. Because I have a 10th house Pisces North Node. Right, so 4th house. 4th house podcasting is a great, I love that. I love that for her. Okay, are we a whole sign or equal house fam? I don't really grasp the difference. Okay, great question. So I flip flop. I go back and forth between Placidus and whole sign for different reasons. When I am making, okay, so if I'm sitting down with a client, the first thing that I'm going to do, if I'm like sitting down to do a chart reading with you, first thing I will do is sit down and I'll pull up the Placidus. Right, so mostly because that's the one that you're going to see most frequently. Like if you are pulling up an app, if you're pulling up whatever, like the default is typically set to Placidus. So because it's the one you're most familiar with, that's the one that I like begin with, or that I assume you're most familiar with, right? That's the one that I will begin with. But I also like pulling out whole sign, especially for folks who want to learn astrology, because it usually makes the chart easier to read. It usually you'll get the concept of the 12 archetypes faster. And again, there's no right or wrong. It's really just a difference in perspective. So when I think about astrology or like anything, okay, so I don't know how familiar you are with like the concept of multiverses or like what's it called, M theory, right, where like it's like time is like this or something. It's like basically like everything has infinite possibilities. So like there is a universe that exists where like everything is exactly like this except that my hair is blonde, or like there's another one where everything is exactly like this except for that like I'm actually like a talking dog. You know what I mean? Like it's fucking wacky when you start thinking about it like that. And so when I'm looking at the different housing, right, like whole sign, Placidus, whatever, I'm sort of thinking about it in that context, is that like it's just like a slightly different variation of my like whole character attributes, you know? It's like we're just looking at it in through a different lens. When I am creating horoscopes, right? So like when I'm writing my weekly updates, or when I am writing my, what am I doing? That's not what I wanted to do. When I am writing my monthly horoscopes and, you know, all of that, I will use whole sign, because it just makes it so much easier to actually like write the horoscope, and to translate it to other people. I think that probably most astrologers who are making horoscopes out there, that they're probably doing it from a whole sign like mentality, whether they're actually like putting it on the, you know, on their horoscope to send out to you. So that's why when I post mine, I will say like for your rising sign, because, you know, for example, it's like if I, let's look at it with the transits. If I'm Gemini rising, and right, anyone who's Gemini rising, Mars is transiting the first house according to whole sign, right? So it just makes everything so much simpler when it comes time to actually trying to translate that. And so that's mostly the reason why I might change it up or look at a different one. I plan on, in the next month or so, like I have the first one coming up this month. I'm going to be teaching a longer class about Venus. And when I do that, I'm going to show, you know, different charts to help. I'm never someone who just will like spew information in that like kind of esoteric, like astrological, you know, I get a little astro talky here and there. And if I get like too complex, feel free to like pull me back and be like, yo, we don't understand what you're saying. Because I get that. Sometimes I can just like go off on a little astro tangent. But mostly what my goal is to make this something that you can use. You know, if it's not contextualized, if it's not something that's tangible, then like what the fuck are we even doing? Like why bother? There's so much information in the world and so many things for us to be doing with our time and our energy. There's so many things consuming our mental space. I'm not someone who is just here to like give you information for the sake of giving you more information to figure out. You got enough to figure out. So when I teach that class, I'm going to use a bunch of charts like this. Like I pull up my chart, I pull up, you know, if I have clients or members of my mastermind who volunteer to let me pull up their charts for examples, then I do that because, again, like if I'm going to teach you a class about Venus, like I'm not going to just teach about the mechanics of, like, you could Google that, you know what I mean? So I'm going to teach you, sure, like the information about Venus, but also I want to teach you a little bit about like the history of astrology, because that's really what you're asking, you know, when we get to like whole sign, equal sign, Placidus, whatever. That's all like astrological like history. Like there are like different people at different points in history who, you know, made these ideas up, you know. And so that's where it starts to get more like nuanced. Like I know that there are definitely astrologers out there who follow sidereal astrology, which is like not always the 13 signs. So some people follow sidereal astrology, some people follow the 13 sign sidereal astrology, which they, I believe, call true sidereal astrology. Which is essentially like when you look at this chart here, you're looking at 30 degrees, right? 30 degrees all the way around. Each sign has 30 degrees. But that's not that's not true, right? Like Virgo is huge, right? Some signs are much smaller, some are bigger. And so like if we were to actually pull that up, it's going to be even more confusing. It's going to be even, right? So I guess that would be a really good way of, you know, like a good comparison of like whole sign to Placidus is like sidereal to I get modern, right? Because that's really where like why It's just because it's easier. It's easier to read, it's easier to translate, and it's easier for someone who's not an astrologer to pick it up. And like, this is just such a good example too. It's like, okay, so we have my chart looking like this in whole sign, which again, it puts my 5 Capricorn placements squarely in the 8th house. This also puts, right, my Chiron in the 2nd house. Those are really the only like major changes that I have. But if we go back and we look at it with the Placidus housing, right, you see that I've got Uranus is right over here, and then Saturn, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, is like exactly like just right there conjunct my 8th house, but it's still like just barely, it's like kissing the 8th house, but it still is technically in the 7th house according to Placidus. And then, right, that puts my Chiron in the 1st house, so just like slight subtle differences, but I like they both, like, it rings true to me, right? Because when you have like such subtle shifts, like they are not like they're not that different, and they're still going to be in the same sign, right? So let's say that we're reading Chiron, for example, okay? So if we've got in Placidus housing, right, Chiron in my 1st house in Cancer, this of course is like wounding around being nurtured, around safety and security, around the mother wound, right? Like I make a joke, it's a bad joke, but I make a joke that like I make a better father than mother, you know, because I'm just like hella Capricorn, like 10th house north node, like just everybody move over, like daddy's got it, okay? But I think that's also just like me being kind of, you know, like still in my shit, let's say, about my Chiron wounding, you know, because that's in the 1st house. The 1st house is about how you begin things, and also very much about your early childhood. I have a whole podcast episode about me having a 1st house Chiron Cancer. If you want to go listen to it, it's episode 2 of my podcast, which is like down at the bottom here. It's the Cosmic Guidance Club. But yeah, I know, I'm like, whatever, it's fine. But truly, like my daughter's, like her dad, and then her bonus dad is what we call him, my boyfriend. Like they are both so much softer than me. Like they are both so much, like they are so much better at not like at nurturing. Like I don't want to say like I'm not a nurturer, like or that I'm incapable of nurturing, but like it is not as natural for me. But it's not as natural for me because I haven't had the example. Like I just like didn't get nurtured. Like, wah, right? Okay. But let's go look at it in whole sign again, because that shifts it over to the 2nd house, right? And when we think of the second house is the house of Taurus, right? And a lot of people want to call this the money house. You know, it's the same as like oversimplifying the 10th house as like the house of career, because it's not just career. It's a house of your reputation. It's a house of what you're known for in the world, how the world sees you, which is not always going to be tethered to your vocation. Like, there's so much like capitalist mindset that is ingrained in the way that we like perceive things. Again, this is what I'm saying, like success. Like, what is success? Is it, you know, 6-figure income, white picket fence? Where did you get that definition? Why? Does that actually mean something to you? This is the kind of shit I'm talking about. And actually, I guess this is a perfect, right, way to translate a 2nd house Chiron, right? It's because a 2nd house Chiron Cancer is going to feel pretty similar to a 1st house Chiron Cancer, except that it's not necessarily only about early childhood or like fixated in that one area of my life. The 2nd house, if we're talking about money, you know, think about anything you've ever heard about manifestation, right? It's the concept of manifestation, or the watered down like generalization of what it means to be a manifestor, to manifest your reality, is what I feel on the inside, what I feel I am worthy of receiving is what I will receive, is what I have. That is the 2nd house. It is self-worth, self-love, and abundance, material abundance, okay? A second house Chiron Cancer, or a second house Cancer Chiron would also make a fuckload of sense. As a person who has been homeless several times, as a person who, like, I'm paying off loans today that I took on like over 10 years ago with, these are like student loans, right? With a boyfriend that I lived with. And instead of doing like the responsible thing and like paying for my classes and stuff, no, I like took out the loans, and then like we needed stuff. Like we didn't have anything. Like we were literally like sleeping like on a, you know, mattress on the ground. So we needed a desk. We needed some things so that we could like go to school and like operate and like, you know, whatever. And so that's what I used my student loan for, right? Is to get us a couple of basic things for like a new mattress and a bed frame and a desk, I believe, were like the bigger purchases that I made for our home. And then it was like a year later, he just like came home one day and broke up with me, and we lived in Oregon, and then I was just like expected to leave, like goodbye. And they still, right, he still I don't know, I have no idea what he ever did with my stuff. He mailed me back like a box. Like I lived there for over a year and had like my whole life was there, and he mailed me back like a box. Which whatever, but there are so many instances that I could point to like that where I just like hugely undervalued myself and allowed other people to take advantage of me in big ways. Like I was not, and even I have said it even like recently, and this is the whole thing about Chiron, y'all. It's a wounded healer. You're never going to get over it. People talk about, well, what happens when I get over it? Like, I don't know, you died? Like, I don't know. Like, you're not going to get over it. Like, you're going to change the way you relate to it. You're going to change the way that it, like, how it means something about you or to you or whatever. But it's always going to be there, right? It will be something that is in your space, you know? I see it as we can really activate the healer part of the wounded healer. Chiron is something I'm rewriting my book right now, which I'll just, right, my book is called The Ego Death Experience. I wrote this back in 2018, right? Yes? Yeah, 2018. And yes, it is I love that analogy. It's kind of like a scab that won't heal, sort of. When you have a scab that heals, you still have like a scar there typically, like if it's a serious enough wound, right? And your Chiron is going to be a pretty serious wound. It's not like a, ow, you know, it's like it really, you know, it fucks your day up. And so if we know that, right, that it's probably not going to heal the way that it was before, that's okay, right? And that it doesn't mean that we're not, like I have this big scar across my belly, right? Because I had a C-section, but that doesn't mean that it's going to like burst open at any moment, you know? It, even now, my daughter's almost 8 years old. It is still like if I press on it, like it still is a little bit tender. Like it's not a, you know, it's a wound. It was, you know? And I think that's more what it is like being prepared for what that wound feels like, knowing what that wound feels like, knowing it's temporary and that pain is temporary. And then also just like really addressing any of the thoughts or feelings that come up when the wounding starts to like be salted. Like last week, I was definitely in a state of anxiousness. There wasn't a reason. Just I was feeling really anxious. I was feeling like my heart was racing, and just like I'm sweating, and like I could not calm my nervous system down. I was trying to do yoga and drink water and just like all the kinds of, like I took a shower, different things that I do to physiologically like bring myself down, and it just like was not happening. And when I notice like that happening, I know that that's like a behavior pattern that I watched in both of my mothers, right? In my biological mother and then in my stepmother, is that they were just constantly like making a problem, like everything was always a problem for them. Like just even now, like neither of them know how to just like be at peace or just like be okay with like what is happening around them. And that's something like why am I feeling like this? Like, does this mean anything? Like, is it attached to anything, And just constantly becoming an observer of your thoughts, of your feelings, of your, reactions, because none of it's actually real, and none of it's actually like permanent. And so I think that is like the biggest thing that our Chiron can teach us. But yeah, I will continue to give y'all updates on how the book is going, because I'm still in like the preliminary process of it. Like it's not available for purchase right now on Amazon, but like this is like I've had people reach out to me years later and tell me this book changed their life. Like this book changed the way that they think about things, the way that they relate to their own emotions and to their own like story and their patterns. And I think once I throw Chiron in there, like done, game over. Like this book is gonna do big things for people, and I'm really excited about that. So I'll keep y'all updated. Let's pull a card. Thank you so much for like hanging out with me today. This was super fun. I'll be back tomorrow. More Fani, although tomorrow might be, I don't know, we'll see how I feel tomorrow, because I have like 5 client sessions tomorrow or something insane like that. I don't know how that happened. Oh, probably because January, because it's my birthday month. And so I take 2 weeks off, and so that made like all my client sessions happen in like a week or 2. Okay. Oh, well, my fingers wanted to pull 2 cards, so we're pulling 2 today. So who do we have? We've got Pluto and we got Jupiter, right? So Pluto was on the bottom, right? So Pluto, what needs to be transformed? We've been having a very Plutonian conversation today, right? About transformativeness and going deep, and that we're all gonna die, and like just the inevitability of it. Like it's literally the only thing that you can count on. It's literally the only thing you can count on ever in your whole life, ever, is that you're gonna die. And the sooner that you can like accept that, whether you have like positive, negative feelings about it, or like whether those feelings ebb and flow or change, that part actually isn't as important as just like literally just the acceptance of it, right? You're gonna die, okay? We're all gonna die, and the sooner you accept it, the easier it will be for you to give the finger to fucking anything that wants to take away your like peace today and your like pursuit of happiness today. And then we have Jupiter, which is literally YOLO vibes. Like the world, like it's never been a better time to have a party. That's Jupiter's vibes. Jupiter came up on our call. Jupiter's been coming up a lot for me lately, which I feel like is something, but definitely I think that the overwhelming message that all of us are getting, me, my clients, like everybody right now, is getting ready for a phase of growth and expansiveness, right? Like what would it look like, sound like, feel like for you to be seen and known in a big way? Like what would it look like for you if things were fun and exciting, and like what kind of prerequisites do you believe are required or like have to happen in order for you to be allowed to have that. Because, y'all, that's definitely like, you know, our thought for the day, like where I'd like to leave you is to think about, are there any prerequisites? Are there any rules? Are there any, right? The format is, I have to do X before I can have Y. So it's like, I have to make $10,000 a month before I can go on a vacation. Right? I have to, whatever, right? So I have to do X before I can have Y, and then like unpack that. Where did that come from? Why do you think that? Is it actually true? Is it? And then yeah, come back and let me know tomorrow how you're feeling, what you're thinking, and what actually it is that you'd like to be pursuing, right? Where are you trying to expand right now? Yeah, so that's it. Thank you so much. Love y'all. Astro Chat and Chill. What a great time. And I'll see you tomorrow for another day. Bye.